No, wait. You can start now.
As a team, we think gender equality should go further than boys can use pink too or girls can like blue as well. We're looking for a concept including equal rights, free choices, and a fair lifestyle for all, men and women, no matter ethnicity or age. We all deserve to choose what we want for ourselves and to feel free of doing it without being rejected.
Nowadays, for every 9 women who are sexually assaulted, only 1 man is assaulted. This not only happens in Mexico, but globally, because women are still seen as the weakest or most delicate sex. And these kind of stereotypes limit the person's capacities since they get trapped in gender roles. For example, for women, they dedicate almost 40 days to domestic tasks, while men only dedicate 16 days to it. And this happens because society still thinks that men should be the one who provide for the family, while women take care of more domestic tasks such as cleaning the house or taking care of the kids. Uh, but the reality is that women who work also have a lot of difficulties because on average, a woman gets paid 21% less than a man. And this cannot be justified by pointing the supposed differences between men's and women's capacities, since we've been proven by great figures such as Marie Curie, Jane Austen, or racquetball champion Paola Longoria that these differences don't really exist. Gender, ine- Gender inequality has been reduced during the past few years, but it's still a big problem that needs to be taken care of as soon as possible. Or every day, approximately 10 women die. Now we're gonna present some facts about violence against women in Mexico. The next one, Ivan. So, violence against women in Mexico has been a big issue during the past few years, as we can see in the following data, which indicates the percentage of women from ages 15 to older that have suffered from any type of violence. So, you can find in emotional violence that 40% of women have suffered it by the hands of their partners and 27% by an aggressor. Now, talking about economic violence, 21% suffered by their partner and 14% by an aggressor. Physical violence, 18% by their partner and 23% by an aggressor. And talking about sexual violence, 7% were suffered by their partner and 39% by an aggressor. These percentages talk about women all around Mexico. Like, can you imagine 37% of women in Mexico suffering emotional violence? That's a lot. And these are not even all the cases. Most of them are not reported. Like emotional violence, 37% of the cases were not reported. And the sexual violence, a lot of the cases are not reported because it's most likely that they're going to be ignored. And globally, talking about violence, it is estimated that the 736 million women, almost 1 in 3, have been subjected to partner violence or non-sexual partner violence from 1 or 2 times in their life. This represents 30% of women from age 15 to older. Um, of women who have been in a relationship, almost 24% of adolescent girls from 15 to 19, they have experienced physical and or sexual violence from an intimate partner or husband. And Every day, 137 women are killed by a member of their family. And it is estimated that 87,000 women who were intentionally killed in 2017 globally. Around 50,000 of them were killed by intimate partners or family members. And talking about human trafficking, adult women and girls account for 22% of all the victims. Adult women account for 49% of the adult victims, while girls represent more than 3 out of 4 children victims.
Finally, talking about work, these are some graphics that show a men's salary compared to women's salary. And on average, women are only paid 77% of what men are paid. Although it varies in location, it never it is never fully achieved. And finally, in 1963, when the Equal Pay Act was passed, women were paid 59 cents for every dollar paid to men.
Okay, so time it's over.
Team against. Are you ready?
Yes, teacher. Carlos is going to share the screen.
Okay, go on.
Teacher, is sharing screen enabled? Because I don't know why it's not letting me. I don't know why it's not letting me share my screen. Can anyone else on my screen share their screen, please?
Okay, I'm gonna try to share, teacher.
Go on.
Can you see it?
Yes, yes, we can. Okay. Gender equality stands for a society with equal rights, opportunities, and responsibilities for both genders. The fight for it comes from thousands of years ago, and in the past decades, it has become stronger. But is it actually worth it? We think it's not. Men and women are not the same physically or mentally. Therefore, equality before the law would not satisfy the conditions that society needs. What's more, the fact that despite our rights are stipulated as identical, there are still unfavorable conditions in some aspects of life, and that supports our position.
And we're gonna give an example of this. For example, think about a killer whale and a baby killer whale. Now, while both of these aquatic animals are from the same species, they are differently biologically, and therefore they don't have the same needs. Now, equality would be providing these two with their basic needs, which would be water, food, and shelter. But in that case, both of them, the baby killer whale and the mother, would still need something more. Now, equity would be giving, for example, the baby killer whale the protection and the extra care that it needs. And if we were to apply this inequality, then it would be a waste to give the same extra resources and a waste of time. And this, we believe that equity is what we really need to solve this problem, since we can prioritize what people need more. And while we understand that this example does not perfectly imitates the human situation right now, we can still apply the same principle. And for example, equality, well, let's say that all feminine hygiene products are free by law. Now, equality would mean that these feminine products would also be free by law to men. And I think we can all agree that that would be just plainly ridiculous. Now, equity would be, as it should be, to just give women these free feminine products. And this can also be applied to a lot of things, like my classmate Maria Jose said. Women right now are clearly suffering from more violence and unfairness, so we should address that first.
We would like to state that with this previous example, we're not claiming that one gender is better or superior than the other. We are merely facing the reality that both genders are different by nature, and that if we want to ensure the well-being of both women and men, then it's impossible that gender equality exists.
Now I want to establish first what are the basic concepts according to Cambridge Dictionary. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, equality is the right of different groups of people to have a similar social position and receive the same treatment, while equity is the situation in which everyone is treated fairly. And that is more what we want. With this in mind, and with full awareness that throughout history there has always been the same structure for society, gender equality is not what we need.
Our differences as individuals cover from physical to mental areas, and here are some obvious examples. Men have their left hemisphere more developed, which gives them number, lecture, and writing superior skills, as well as scientific and reasoning abilities. On the other hand, women are generally better at intuition, imagination, three-dimensional perception, and artistic senses. Women evaluate rational content not without their emotional meaning and attachment, while men are more likely to separate these two. The experimental worlds of men and women are different by nature. As an obvious point, we have biological sex. Despite these features are not completely binary, the wide majority of human beings are defined by these sexual attributes. For example, men's body composition is bigger and stronger, which benefits them from physical tasks. Men have more muscle mass and more muscular capacity. Women have more connection with both with their emotional side. All these characteristics support the fact that females and males do not have the same capacities, and as a consequence, they do not have the same essential requirements or the same development in different areas of our society. Also, the skills each gender offers lead to clear disadvantages in the social, home, and work field. However, we must not generalize all the gaps as detrimental. Some of them can be changed and have to be accepted, and nonetheless, other ones must be immediate paid attention to.
And to that end, our final stand is that since we are both different and we both need different things, we believe that law should not be equally but that it should address each specific problem that each gender has. And so therefore, if we want to achieve truly justice and fairness for everyone, we believe that gender equality is impossible.
Paul?
It's just supporting the fact that each need needs different things for their prosperity, so different laws must be enforced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Now you will be assigned 5 minutes to go to your breakout rooms and prepare your counter arguments. Got it?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
Thank you. Paul, start counting 5 minutes, please. For this part of the counter arguments, guys, you will have 12 minutes to do the counter arguments, and it will be 1 for and 1 against, okay? If you want to participate, whoever it is who's going to start with the counter arguments, please raise your hand using the tools, you know that, so we know who's going to start and who follows. So we start with Jorge for the for counter arguments. Paul, are you ready? You're going to check who's next, okay, Paul? And you're going to just assign the turns. Here we go.
Just 10 minutes, right, teacher?
12, Jorge. Paul, please. And here we go.
Okay, so gender equality is not just a fundamental human right. It is also necessary for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. The Statement of Equal Rights for Men and Women is one of the main objectives of the United Nations, and another goal is to achieve gender equality and empowerment in all women and girls. We are not trying to say that women are better than men or that men are better than women. We're just trying to say that they deserve the same treatment, and there's no need of thinking that women are less or the women are weak. I think it's just a thing of fairness, and I think that women can also be the same as men. Women can also work. Women can also go to school. Women can also do the hard work. Women can be independent. Women can also feel safe when they are in the streets. Women can also have fun. Women can be as free as they want.
Can I talk? Yes. Well, my team, we also agree with mostly everything you said. We also believe that both of the genders are worth equally, and that both of them can do almost any job they want, and that they also should be treated fairly for their work. But we also acknowledge that they're not equally biologically, and that therefore they, like we mentioned before, they don't have the exact same needs. Now we don't want anything like radically different in terms of laws, but we do believe that in order to achieve these fairness that you were talking about for everybody, we should be referring more to equity rather than equality.
Ivan?
And while you said that men and women are completely different, and nowadays I think women and men don't necessarily have to have like the studied sexual characteristics that have been studied for years. Like with the new, well, it's not relatively new, it's have been for thousands of years. The concept of transgenderism and trans men and trans women should also be considered about talking in gender equality. Not only women need to use feminine products, but men can also use them as well.
But like, well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not an expert on that topic, but in talking about transgender, when they change sex, don't those men become women? And well, if that's the case, then yes, all women or men, or as you see it, they should be able to use these feminine products. But like as we stated before, for example, giving this inequality, giving this free to everyone would be just a waste of time and resources, since the biologically men that stay men, they don't need them. And also we don't think that men and women are like radically different or very different, but they do have some specific differences. And then again, I think that there's nothing wrong with having those differences. It just completes and makes more of humanity, but we do need to take into consideration those specific differences that both genders have.
Marijo?
I think what my partner Ivan was referring to was your example of feminine products, since even though transgender men were born as women, they are now men, and therefore they, even though they're men, they will still have the necessity of feminine products. And I think because they're men, they shouldn't be like privated from the right to have their feminine products since they need it. And I don't think it's a waste of product, since if men are not going to use it, a woman is going to use it.
Andrea?
I'm not sure I go along with that view. That point still supports our position that biological sex defines necessities. And still, transgender people are a minority. In Mexico, they are only about 360,000 and 600,000 transgender people. So why are we going to make decisions based on minorities when we are searching for the greater good for everyone?
Luna?
I think even though transgender people are like minority, we shouldn't ignore them just like if they didn't exist. They are also humans and they deserve the same conditions. They are different, yes, they are different, but they deserve the same, and they deserve to be counted in society.
Andrea?
We're not against transgender people, or neither we're ignoring them. We are just making clear that, as you said, we are not the same. We're not the same, so we don't need the same things.
Jorge?
Okay, so I see your point, but nowadays people can identify themselves whatever they want. You know, we're in 2021. We need to get rid of stereotypes, and we need to be open-minded to new ideas, and letting people identify themselves as they want.
Christian?
Well, yeah, we also see your point, and I think there is some certain truth in that. So why not, instead of this confusion, to avoid this confusion of you're a man, you're a woman, why don't we can agree that feminine hygiene products should be free for everybody who has a vagina, and that would be that, regardless of what they identify as.
Team 4? Marijo?
Yeah, I agree with what Christian said, that feminine products should be available for everyone with a vagina. And for what Andrea said about biological differences, we cannot encapsulate every single person in those differences. For example, what they said about men having a part of their brain more developed and being more rational than women, we cannot generalize based on some studies, since there are emotional men, there are rational women, and we cannot assume that everyone is a certain way because of a study. And also about men being more muscular and bigger, that's not true either. There are men who are really thin, and there are women who are really muscular. And it's all about not generalizing, because that forces people to stay in certain gender roles, and that causes stereotypes.
I'd like to disagree with that because we're not talking about if men can be stronger than women or if women are always smarter than men, because those could be considered, well, stereotypes. We're talking about that men have by nature more for example, they have more muscle mass than women. They have around a 40%, while women have a 30%. And there have also been studies that women are more connected to both of their hemispheres of their brain. Not because that doesn't mean that men can't be smarter than women, but there are just facts that they have been getting from what they have studied, making them different in, or well, superior in different ways. And this can also affect some other things like the pay gap. Like, for example, we can use the NBA and WNBA example that has been like more popular on the internet because like uh because people are complaining that the NBA players are getting more money than the WNBA players. But the difference is that the NBA games are more different than the WNBA games, even if they are the same sports, and they win more money because of that. And that's not the only reason. The pay gap is not just because of unfairness between the genders.
Paul?
There's 1 minute left, teacher.
Okay,
Jorge?
so I see your point, but I don't think that it is all about the muscular mass, because in sports women are like ignored because society is used to like always watch men's sports, but I'm not talking about that. The most important part is the muscles. I think that the brain and the ideas of women can also help in business, and because they can help organizing teams, and they can be good for the economy because with their innovative ideas they can reach out more goals.
Okay.
I cannot agree with that really because there have also been proving that men sports game getting way more views, and not because they are women and they don't want to see women play. It's just because the games are more popular. The games can be more interesting when a man is playing. And I'm not saying that women are bad at sports. If you compare a game of male football and a game of women football, you can see that uh, there is obviously a difference there, and people have their presence
Okay, time is up.
difference playing.
Now you're going to be given, thank you, Carlos, you're going to be given 2 minutes to prepare your summaries, okay? I want you to go back to the breakout rooms. 2 minutes, guys, only. 3, sorry, 3.
Yo tampoco tengo.
Grabo y digo que no se grabó todo por alguna razón.
Ajá. Salud.
¿Cómo le hago?
Ya,
No sé cómo hacerle.
ya lo estoy haciendo.
Ah,
Pero,
So,
okay.
So as a conclusion, I would say all being considered, both genders need to have different privileges for society to be
different laws, different
laws that support their needs,
they're
even
specific.
though they could be privileges
And there are specific situations that they are in.
Okay.
And you can say that women usually get paid less, and that's something that we should like really address, and that
I feel prepared. Yes. Yes. Oh yes, yes.
Now, team four, please.
Briefly to conclude, gender inequality has shown statistics of both violence and discrimination towards women. And we should remember that gender equality is the fight to end these statistics of violence and discrimination. And we need to remember that in the grand scheme of things, like gender and sex study and interest and likes of people are not mutually exclusive, and that treating people differently based on their sex and giving them a bit of a advantage is wrong, and saying that either one of these sex studies and interest is factual is completely wrong.
We understand men and women could have different capacities, but even though both of them, men and women, go through the same amount of exigence, it takes a lot of discipline to practice sports. Sadly, inequality has shown a lot in sports, because maybe a men's game is more watched than a women's game. And we also can see the difference in salary. For example, a man that plays soccer could live. He gets enough money to make his life. But on the other hand, we have women, and women are not paid the same. We have a huge gap between both of them that shouldn't exist, because we are all capable of the same.
Okay, thank you. Team against?
Before saying our complete, summary, I wanted to answer to Luna's, but they, first of all, men and women don't win the most because men generate more money by views. So they cannot pay more women if they do not generate more money. Please go on, Andrea.
Well, all being considered, our final conclusion would be that laws should be modified in order to support each gender, not equally, because that would not work. It is not working, even though there is a fight for it to happen. What we need is equity, and for each gender to be treated fairly, based on what they need. So if this leads to privileges, well, maybe they're useful. No, they are useful, and they will contribute for society to achieve prosperity.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. You can stop the recording. All right, guys, if you...
Yo tampoco tengo.
Grabo y digo que no se grabó todo por alguna razón.
Ajá. Salud.
¿Cómo le hago?
Ya.
No sé cómo hacerle.
Ya lo estoy haciendo.
Ah,
Pero,
So,
okay.
So as a conclusion, I would say, all being considered, both genders need to have different privileges for society to be
different laws, different
laws that support their needs, even though they could be privileges
and there are specific situations that they are in.
Okay.
And you can say that women usually get paid less, and that's something that we should really address, and that
I feel prepared. Yes. Oh, yes.
Now, team four, please.
Briefly to conclude, gender inequality has shown statistics of both violence and discrimination towards women. And we should remember that gender equality is the fight to end these statistics of violence and discrimination. And we need to remember that in the grand scheme of things, like gender and sex study and interest and likes of people are not mutually exclusive, and that treating people differently based on their sex and giving them a bit of a advantage is wrong, and saying that either one of these sex studies and interest is factual is completely wrong.
We understand men and women could have different capacities, but even though both of them, men and women, go through the same amount of exigence, it takes a lot of discipline to practice sports. Sadly, inequality has shown a lot in sports, because maybe a men's game is more watched than a women's game. And we also can see the difference in salary. For example, a man that plays soccer could live. He gets enough money to make his life. But on the other hand, we have women, and women are not paid the same. We have a huge gap between both of them that shouldn't exist, because we are all capable of the same.
Okay, thank you. Tim, against?
Before saying our complete, summary, I wanted to answer to Luna's. But they, first of all, men and women don't win the most because men generate more money by views. So they cannot pay more women if they do not generate more money. Please go on, Andrea.
Well, all being considered, our final conclusion would be that laws should be modified in order to support each gender, not equally, because that would not work. It is not working, even though there is a fight for it to happen. What we need is equity and for each gender to be treated fairly, based on what they need. So if this leads to privileges, well, maybe they're useful. No, they are useful, and they will contribute for society to achieve prosperity.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. You can stop the recording. All right, guys, if you